Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. It is Friday, January 26th, and Joe Biden. Good old Joey. The geriatric, the puppet, the child sniffer, the guy that hits a golf ball backwards, falls up a flight of stairs, falls on a stationary bike, falls during a graduation ceremony and can't get back up, looks for dead people in the crowd, takes a photo with somebody who was never there in the first place, doesn't know his name, doesn't know his wife's name, gets lost at times, doesn't know who he is, fights with his teleprompter. Every single speech, the teleprompter has been undefeated for the last 3 years. There's a stat for you. Is still the worst president in American history. Patriots, it's so great to be back with you on this fine Friday morning. And boy, oh boy, do we have an episode for you. Because immigration has all of a sudden popped off in the news. Even though this has been going on for 3 years now, it's what everybody's talking about. Civil war's trending and has been trending. And I will say we are probably closer to a civil war than ever before. And it's all Joe Biden's fault. It's all the Democrats' fault. And now the tension is real because Democrats are calling on Joe Biden, the geriatric, the puppet, to seize control of the Texas National Guard from Abbott. Try it, Joe. See what happens. This is some insane stuff coming from Democrats right now. And what's even more remarkable is Democrats are calling on Joe Biden to seize control of the Texas National Guard to prevent the Texas Republican governor, Greg Abbott, from stationing them along the U.S. border. All the while, the messaging from this administration is we're doing everything we can to solve this immigration crisis, this problem, this situation, be more specific. Oh, really? Joe Biden's going to go down as, yes, obviously the worst president in American history, but also the president that allowed an invasion to happen while he was president. I mean, 10 million people plus in just 4 years alone is a wild number. And it's all thanks to Democrats. Well, you have these two these Democrat representatives of Texas, accusing Abbott of defying the Supreme Court by continuing to station National Guard troops at the southern border and build illegal immigration deterrence out of basically razor wire. There's nothing that says that they couldn't do razor wire. Even the Supreme Court, there's nothing in there in their decision, that 5-4 decision that we thought was an insane decision, by the way. There's nothing in that decision that says they can't put out more razor wire. The decision just enabled the Border Patrol agents to be able to cut through the wire to allow processing to happen. Because no longer is it about going through the roughly 28 ports of entry that we have. It's about going through anywhere at the southern border. As we've mentioned, John Kirby himself said it, that the razor wire needs to be cut to be able to process these people. So no longer is the border segregated into ports of entry. The entire border is the point of entry now. There's only one, and it's the entire border. Look at these idiots. Look at these idiots. Governor Greg Abbott is using the Texas National Guard to obstruct and create chaos at the border. He's like an AOC 2.0, this Joaquin Castro guy. He's an idiot. This is the type of guy that would go to the border, like AOC did, and take fabricated photos of an empty parking lot and just a chain link fence and her up on it. Or like, remember when AOC walked into the, basically where the holding facilities for these illegal immigrants, and she was taking pictures of the toilet and going, they're drinking out of the toilet for water. Oh my God, it's so terrible. But the faucet was connected to the water because America's so great that we literally shit and piss in a toilet water that's drinkable water. That's how great we have it here in this country. And she's going to sit there and fabricate lies in the same way this idiot takes to Twitter and says the Texas National Guard is trying to obstruct and create chaos at the border. Why don't you look at your own party? Why don't you look at the chaos that's been created, not just in our own country, but also around the world? Russia, Ukraine, you got China, Taiwan, you got Iran funding the Houthis and Hezbollah. You got terrorism happening across the world. ISIS is back in the news again. You got whatever's taking place at the southern border. You got Israel, Hamas. I mean, none of this happened under Trump. And you will still, I was just on Twitter the other day. You still have people coming out and saying, Trump's to blame for the border wall. These libs are so off their rocker. They're all taking to live. They're going live on TikTok and Instagram saying Trump was the worst. Trump shouldn't be president again. Biden's better than Trump. Trump's to blame for the border was the most recent one. Are you stupid? I mean, these are people walking around, these NPCs. You got to be so far off your rocker. You're in the realm of Joe Biden, which is an astonishing realm to be in because Joe Biden doesn't even know what realm he's in. So if Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, which he is not, POTUS needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard. Now, there is a process of actually doing that, I believe. And so I don't know what would happen. You would have a standoff, you would presume, because I know Abbott ain't going to stand down. You would imagine maybe Joe Biden will, because Joe Biden's weak on everything. I mean, hell, he's even weak himself. He could barely stand himself up. But I would presume they would just look at one another and go, like the Spider-Man thing, like what are you going to do? Who's going to do what? I don't know what would happen, but like I said, we're getting closer to a civil war, and it's Democrats' fault. You also have this other idiot, this other knucklehead, followed up Wednesday, adding Greg Abbott has continued to use political stunts. Oh, here we go. Oh, it's Karine Jean-Pierre 2.0. See, the other guy was AOC 2.0. This idiot's Karine Jean-Pierre 2.0. Political stunts and inflammatory language to advance his own agenda. Really? Violating the Constitution and endangering both U.S. citizens and asylum seekers. I agree with Castro. If Abbott is defying yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, POTUS needs to establish sole federal control of the Texas National Guard. You gotta love that inflammatory language. You wanna know who called all of us extremists a threat to democracy? Joe Biden and the Democrat Party. We're MAGA extremists, you guys, because we want to make America great again. Where, as you see, Obama didn't do that. Obama drove the country into the ground. And then Trump comes in the office, tries to make America great again. So he tried his best. China kind of ruined it for the globe. Nothing's been done about China. And now you have Biden coming in and ruining everything over again. It's astonishing. It's astonishing. Democrats will try to reason with themselves and kind of like interweave somewhat of logic and just falsehood and lies to like rationalize irrational behavior. I know that doesn't make sense, but you know, that's what they're doing. So it's just astonishing here. Violating the Constitution. You want to know who's violating the Constitution? The President of the United States, you idiot libs. Oh, God, these people, these are congressmen, you guys. These are people vote for these people. They want 4 more years of this. We said it. Don't make me play the video again. Don't you make me play. You twisted my arm. You twisted my arm.
Look, folks.
I'm always going to have that queued up now for the rest of the freaking year. It's such a great video because they want 4 more years of this crap. The executive branch of the United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws protecting states, and Joe's not doing it. Joe's allowing an invasion to happen, including immigration laws on the books right now, Abbott said. President Biden has instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. We talked about this in yesterday's episode. Right here for you. Texas has a right. Texas has a right. But what Democrats want is for him to not follow the Constitution, not uphold the Constitution, and Abbott is trying to do his job by upholding the Constitution, which he made an oath to do. So thankfully, you got 25 Republican governors here banding together, and thank God we called for this, to support Texas in its fight to secure the border. And I hope there's more Republicans that are going to come out. And this is what I think needs to happen, like tomorrow. Trump needs to go down to the border. Somebody sit there and just take this one clip. Trump, go to the border tomorrow. Take every single one of these 25 Republican governors. Take every Republican you possibly can. Start bussing them in. Pay for it. Look, we'll even start a freaking fundraiser for the damn thing. Get down there at the border. Get the cameras out there and everything. And just make it a whole charade, a whole deal on how you're going to sit there and protect Texas and the United States. I'm telling you, if Trump doesn't do that, it's a big loss on his part. It's a big mistake. He needs to get down there at the border like today or tomorrow, and with all these 25 Republicans, and it would be an amazing event. 25 Republican governors from across the country released a joint statement Thursday afternoon expressing support for the state of Texas as it fights to secure its border with Mexico. Like I said, civil war's trending right now. Things are getting really contentious. I don't want a civil war, nor should you. Americans killing Americans, that's terrible. The statement comes as the Biden administration is against fighting to stop Texas, and there's a flood of illegal immigrants happening in the state. I just want to more or less show the names themselves, because you know what? These men and women deserve a round of applause. And I want to make sure we have documentation of these people standing up for the United States of America. And some of these people might be your governor, which, hey, you know what? If they continue to act like this, deserve probably re-election. It's nice to see this. You got Sarah Huckabee Sanders right here of Arkansas. So that's a very, you got McMaster, Henry McMaster. We've heard of him before. You got Glenn Youngkin of Virginia, Jim Justice. I mean, you know, these are recognizable names, but some of them we haven't heard from in a while. But it's nice to actually see people doing their damn job, of which they took an oath to do. So you have McConnell, one of the Republicans, saying border talks face a quandary as politics have changed. And this is a little bit more so of Trump coming into the mix again. And McConnell's basically saying the things that Trump wants is disrupting the process that's currently happening right now to get funding for the border and Ukraine. So we'll break this down really quick and then we're going to move on. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who he needs to give up, you guys. The guy has to go. He's so old. I mean, he's just like Joe Biden. I mean, if we're going to say what we're going to say about Joe, a geriatric, the guy that's losing it, Mitch is the same way. Reportedly said on Wednesday, a bipartisan effort to hash out border security reforms coupled with aid for U.S. allies such as Ukraine is facing a significant political hurdle. As I mentioned, they're trying to combine border security and Ukraine funding in the same package. I hate when politicians do this kind of crap. If you think something's important, fund border security and then negotiate on the Ukraine security. Like, they don't need to be combined. So separate the damn thing. I'm so tired of us just lumping everything in, and then, you know, there'll be border security in Ukraine. There'll be some other BS thing of like, hey, let's research these lesbian dogs to see if they'll mate with one another. The Kentucky Republican told GOP colleagues in a closed-door meeting that time has essentially run out in negotiating a deal after former President Donald Trump, who has discouraged compromise in the talks, here we go, emerged victorious in the New Hampshire primary. So basically, as we're getting close to the election, they're like, look, Donald Trump's probably going to be the leading guy, which, oh, duh. And you go, and look, we don't want to piss him off. McConnell said, when we started this, the border united us and Ukraine divided us, he conceded. The politics, though, have changed. He referred to Trump as the nominee and stressed we don't want to do anything to undermine him. So there you go. There you go. So he's basically saying we're between a rock and a hard place at this point. I don't think so. I think it's very clear that Republicans want a border wall. I think it's very clear that we'd like more border agents. And I think it's very clear that, you know, there needs to be a pathway for Ukraine. There needs to be a clear objective if we're going to keep sending them, you know, 106 plus billion dollars there. So President Joe Biden again last year sent roughly 106 billion, whoever's on audio, of supplemental funds to spend on U.S. allies, including Ukraine and Israel and Taiwan. But you have here, there was a mention of Johnson basically saying, like, if we're going to fund Ukraine, there needs to be an objective. Like, there needs to be a way that we could sit there and actually determine what the hell is going on, like an end goal, a conclusion. So here we go. House Speaker Mike Johnson was among the conservatives who rejected the deal as reported. Absolutely not. Lankford urged lawmakers not to jump to any conclusion, saying, I encourage people to read the border security bill before they judge the border security bill themselves. I also advise people not to believe everything you read on the internet. Johnson last week said that when he spoke with Trump about border security pretty frequently and noted that the former president is not wrong about the issue. We don't have the text of whatever the Senate has cooked up yet. And so we have to reserve judgment, I think, to see what comes of it. It doesn't sound good on the outset. And then he goes on further again to mention the idea of assistance to Ukraine, that we need a clear objective to end that. I don't know if you call it a war or conflict, but look at this clip, you guys. Look at this. Look at these idiots. The Schumer-Lankford border deal. Holy lordy. It says here, increase green cards by 50,000 a year. Work permits for adult children of HB1 holders. Okay. Immediate work permits to every illegal alien released from custody. Folks, you're talking 10 million work permits, give or take. At least, I mean, that's a conservative number. You're talking more than that. Taxpayer-funded lawyers, yes, you heard that correctly, to certain UACs and mentally incompetent aliens. So more tax dollars at work, not going to Americans, but going to, people that came here illegally. 5,000 migrants, notice they say migrants, per day allowed into the U.S. So look at this foosery that's going on. They're not talking about people coming through the legal process. No. This is all about illegal immigration. Remember, they want 5,000 a day. You could do the math. A day. And by the way, there's still going to be people pouring across the border because none of this actually funds a border wall. So none of this actually solves the problem. Remember, nothing of which is being proposed by Republicans and Democrats actually solves this problem. You're getting ringed by both sides, to be honest. Restricts basically parolee for those who enter without authorization between ports of entry. It's so wild. Shit's so insane. These are people running the show, though. And like I said, folks, don't make me play the video again. Don't make me play the video again. They want 4 more years of this, and I already have. I got it queued up again. Don't you make me. Don't you make me. Well, speaking of other nonsense, we got Joy Reid here. Just the mouthpiece of the Democrat Party, pretty much, and the crazy libs that are out there. Texas is no different than the Deep South resisting integration. Here we go. Oh, here we go. Oh, the race card, the segregation. It's so funny because we just covered yesterday how Democrats are basically supporting slavery of 100,000 children right now. Funny, Joy. It's interesting that when you actually use your noggin, the party that you clearly are a part of and that you want to be a mouthpiece for is the party of slavery. Previously, metaphorically, probably in modern day slavery, but now is also physical with what Joe Biden's doing at the southern border, where all these children are being sold into slavery. But you don't care about the children, do you, Joy? You say you do. Because if you didn't, you would just have a border wall. But you'll blame Republicans for all this. You'll blame Trump for all this, I'm sure. And MSNBC host Joy Reid used her cable news platform on Wednesday, I can't believe anybody even watches that show, to claim that officials in Texas who have taken steps to secure the southern border, where President Joe Biden's administration has refused to act, are attempting to resist segregation. Look, folks, there's always going to be idiots out there. It just shows you how great this country is because those idiots could rise up to the top levels of entertainment and presumably get paid millions of dollars to just say outlandish things and get away with it. I mean, you see it on The View all the time with Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Joy Reid. Like, what is it with Joys and just being knucklehead? Like, do we have any Joys in here? I'm so sorry. Like, it's like the name Karen, right? You kind of get lumped in with knuckleheads. But if your name's Joy, I'm sorry, because now you're lumped in with Joy Reid and Joy Behar, just knuckleheads. If you're a conservative Republican, you're in here, your name's Joy, I'm sure you're not a knucklehead because, hell, you vote conservative Republican, baby. Reid complained about Republican lawmakers arguing that they preferred to keep the border crisis as a talking point rather than working with Democrats to solve the problem. You see how the media just massages the shoulders and just works as another function of the Democrat Party platform? They're just a bunch of activists. Granted, MSNBC has come out and said, look, we're a left-wing news site. Give them props for that. Meaning they're not trying to hide their bias. But nor could you hide your bias with a statement like that. I mean, we all see what you're doing. But really? Arguing they prefer to keep the border crisis? Are you stupid? Have you not looked at every conservative outlet out there saying we want to secure the border? And by the way, this is the great one right here. Rather than working with Democrats to solve the problem, bitch, you had all 3 branches of government when Joe Biden took office. This was still a problem when he took office. You didn't do anything about it. Don't give me this whole thing. And by the way, you didn't want to work with Trump when he was in office to sit there and solve the problem either. That's why in 2018, 2019, you had MS-13 violent gang members. You had other people still poured across the border that killed Americans, which we covered, I think it was this week or last week. Under the Trump administration, illegal immigrants were killing Americans. You have the same thing happening now. So don't give me this that we're not willing to work with Democrats. We wanted the border wall under Trump. You fought us every step of the way. You said walls don't work. And then all of a sudden, when January 6th comes around and thereafter, you had walls around the Capitol. It was amazing. They built them in one day. Oh, we can't build fences. We can't build border walls. They don't work. I mean, Nancy Pelosi and the Democrat Party are such idiots that they will give a speech in front of a wall that's protecting them and saying walls don't work. And Democrats will look at that same video and go, oh my gosh, he's just so right. Walls do not work. Do you not see the wall behind her, you idiot? They're NPCs, you guys. I'm telling you, some of these people can't be real. Some sort of matrixing going on. So I haven't seen this clip. We'll see how long it is. I'm hoping it's good because sometimes, watching idiots talk sometimes it's a little funny. So, like, Brad, don't subject this to us, please. It's torture. It's torture. No. I'm doing it.
And very quickly, this massive resistance, it sounds like the old Southerners who said that we will resist integration by any means necessary, that Chip Roy language. How does that read inside of the Latino community?
I mean, it's very simple. You know, if you're the Republican Party, you're allegedly the party of laws and order, and you're essentially telling local authorities to break the law. No, so I think once again, going into this image of, you know, who is the party of law and order and who is the party for democracy, I think that's where we all have to highlight the hypocrisy, regardless of the politics. They're essentially telling people to break the law.
Folks, who wanted to defund the police? What party was that? Oh, it was the Democrat Party. Yeah, you're right. Where are all the smash and grabs happening? Where's all the violent crime, the murders, the homicides, the theft? Where's that all? Oh, it's Democrat runners. You're right. Oh, but we're not law and order. Oh, okay. We just want to secure the border, but we're not law and order. By the way, Abbott's not breaking any laws. You just have these idiots taking the MSNBC saying that he's breaking laws because it's easier just to say things and have nobody sit there and challenge you on those very things. They're breaking the law. No, they're not. There's nothing in there that they're doing that's breaking the law. If anything, they are upholding the law. So again, they're not breaking the law by putting more razor wire down. The Supreme Court never said they couldn't do that. The Supreme Court's ruling just gave authorization to Border Patrol to cut the razor wire. So Texas is not doing anything wrong. And Democrats will do everything they can to stop Greg Abbott from securing the border. Why? Because they want an invasion. Why? Because they want to give amnesty to all these people, and all these people are going to be registered Democrats. That's what's going to happen. So it goes on here a little bit further and says, there's no better example of what MAGA world wants for the rest of America than Texas, Reed said, claiming that Governor Greg Abbott has ordered the Texas National Guard to implement draconian measures meant to secure the border. They just throw out words. They just throw out things like racism. There's systemic racism out there. Can you elaborate on that? Can you elaborate on what the draconian measures actually are for him to secure the border and protect his constituents, American citizens? He made an oath. Like he's just upholding what he's supposed to uphold. If you don't like it, then change the Constitution. She went on to describe the scene, saying that Texas state officials had been setting up buoys and with buzzsaws, barring federal agents from assisting. Folks, who the hell says buzzsaws? Is that a thing? Who calls it buzzsaws? Maybe they do. Assisting with border control and passing legislation that makes it a state crime to cross the border. Folks, is anybody catching on to this idiocracy? And passing legislation that makes it a state crime to cross the border. It's illegal to cross the border. So yes, if it's illegal, you should be deported because you broke the law. That's how it works, Joy. Welcome to reality. It should be passing legislation and make it a state crime to cross the border because it's a crime. I mean, stuff writes itself. Stuff writes itself. Well, Joy Reid wasn't bad enough. We have a jam-packed episode. I hope you guys are in it for the long haul, baby, because we're ending the week off strong. Chicago. The mayor here. This is the dude that replaced Mayor Lori Lightfoot. Mayor Brandon Johnson. Slammed after calling for ceasefire in Israel-Hamas war. And I'm going to connect this to Chicago. I'm going to connect this to illegal immigration. We got it all set up for you. Netanyahu should call for a ceasefire in Chicago. Huh. Just wait. Political commentators and social media users rip Chicago Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson, who sucks at his job just as much as Joe does, after he called for a ceasefire in the ongoing Israel-Hamas war on Wednesday. Earlier this week, Hamas rejected a 2-month ceasefire deal proposed by the Israeli government, refusing Israel's condition that top Hamas commanders be exiled from the Gaza Strip. Hamas is also reportedly demanding any ceasefire deal to include the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. On Wednesday, Johnson added his name to the list of Democrats in the U.S. calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. We need a ceasefire, he says. The mayor who took office last year after defeating incumbent Lori Lightfoot, which doesn't say anything. I mean, it was a leftist for a leftist, right? Democrats are complaining about the people that they wanted in there. Look, he's a lefty. He's a progressive. He's a nut job. Was slammed for his comment by numerous people who pointed out that the city he leads is coming out of a violent crime wave that saw Chicago top the nation in homicides with 810 in 2021. Can we first have a ceasefire in Chicago? Asked New York Post reporter John Levine. Is perfect. Look what he posted on Twitter. I love it. Hey, Brandon Johnson, why don't you worry about your own area? Why don't you worry about Chicago instead of everything else around the world? Maybe if Democrats focused on the localities their localities would be better and people wouldn't be fleeing from them. Chicago and these localities like LA are so bad. Illegal immigrants are showing up and they're going, I fled a war-torn country and oppressive government for this? This is crap. I'm going back home. And they're literally leaving. That's not it. That's, you guys, that sounds so outlandish and a joke. It's really not. We actually covered it here. Like a family from Venezuela shows up to a Democrat-ran locality and literally they were baffled. They're like, this is so bad. They literally left like a war-torn area, oppressive government, socialized, couldn't eat, bread lines, and go, oh my God, this is terrible. We're going back. But don't worry, Brandon Johnson there, he has it all figured out there in Chicago. All figured out there in Chicago. How about a ceasefire on the South Side first? Erickson posted. Yeah, who should call for a ceasefire in Chicago? Hell yeah, he should. Johnson admitted that he doesn't know if his statement on a ceasefire will influence the U.S. stance, but said his duty as a mayor requires him to recognize people's humanity and understand the value of what liberation means for people. There's no mirrors. If you're a lib, there's like no mirrors around you. There's no self-reflection, like whatsoever. Quote, I wish I could give you maybe an answer to what impact it will have on other people who make decisions. But I could say from a very personal note, I know that for a Black liberation, we had to make statements that maybe not in the immediate had an impact. Oh, okay. So during the last temporary ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, the terrorist group violated the agreement, firing rockets at Israel. Hamas terrorists also murdered 4 people, including a young pregnant woman at a bus stop in Jerusalem during the ceasefire. The terrorist group has said it will only release the remaining hostages, believed to be more than 100 people, if Israel agrees for the comprehensive ceasefire. You guys, here's a big thing a lot of people miss. Before the initial attack, which I think was on October 7th, there was a ceasefire. There was a ceasefire. Before all this bleep hit the fan with this terrorist attack, which is like Israel's 9/11, there was a ceasefire. That's what it was. And you want to know who didn't follow the ceasefire? Hamas, the Palestinians. They didn't follow a ceasefire. So now we're supposed to demand another ceasefire. Look, there was one. And now there ain't going to be another one because they screwed up. So Johnson doesn't want to worry about himself, where migrants are now sleeping at airports in 2 major cities. So first they're taking the bedding. They're building makeshift shelters. Well, now they're sleeping at airports. But so insane. Folks, this is wild. Just to let you know, they're also voting in New York City and municipalities for mayors. Yeah, you heard that correctly. Nobody believes me when it says, look it up. New York City passed legislation. Illegal immigrants can vote in New York. Yes, they can. So illegal migrants are now sheltering at international airports in 2 major cities, Chicago and Boston. But don't worry. Chicago, you have Brandon Johnson there, the knucklehead, that's going to be so focused on everything else in the world than his actual area that he should be focusing on. Very reminiscent of Nancy Pelosi that ran California right into the ground. You know, she has her paws and her gross ass fingers and everything. Well, you know, California is now a dumpster fire because of Democrats. One terminal at Boston Logan International Airport has turned into a temporary shelter for nearly 100 migrants. Now the city's other shelters have reached capacity. I know it's head spinning, folks. Welcome to Friday's episode. Some families have been sleeping for weeks in Terminal E, for weeks, where most international flights arrive. Who's paying for all this? Like, where do they get the money to sleep there for weeks? Like, you have to pay for food. I understand they get free bathroom facilities, right? But how are they showering is my question. Like, who's paying for that? Photos saw families sleeping on the floor and on pallets crowded by other people, blankets, and their belongings. One woman collected hygiene items from the migrants, that the migrants, many of whom have young children, do not have access to a shower, so they are given wipes to clean themselves. So we have footage here of this whole thing. And, it's tough to watch because, it's not necessarily the child's fault, right? I mean, these are parents that are choosing to do this. So, for those on audio, there's blankets, there's bedding set up, they're sleeping on the floor. I mean, there's folks, right? That's a lot of people. Just camping out, which would normally have people sitting there waiting for their flights, but they're just in the, I don't know if you call this a hallway, an atrium, I don't know what you call it, but they're just sitting there and weeks on end with children. It's tough to see because parents are making these decisions and not looking at the ramifications of how it's actually affecting their children, and they're going to blame Republicans for all this. Oh my God, they're not taking it seriously. Republicans, look what Republicans are doing. So you have more stuff happening here. There's a picture that I'm trying to actually make bigger, but it's just taking me to another website. You got this picture right here, again, just littering the floor. This looks very reminiscent of the pods, except the pods that they had at the border during COVID was stuffed with like 300 people, and the pod was only able to fit 100, 150. So that whole thing went down. But don't worry, Republicans are just grotesque, right? Remember when AOC again went down there and fabricated a bunch of lies? Well, this wasn't a lie. If you remember during COVID, when they were stuffing these migrants into these pods, under Joe Biden's ruling, by the way, remember how like they went after Trump for like, you're tearing families away, you know, you're ripping children out of the parents' arms and all these other things. It's so funny how Joe Biden did some pretty atrocious things to immigrants at the border. Like COVID's going around, so he stuffs 300 people with COVID and non-COVID people together. And remember how COVID was like the worst thing ever, according to Democrats, like you were going to die. Like, everyone's going to die. Oh my God, mask up, mask up. Well, he was only supposed to have 50% capacity, and he was way over that. But he gets away with this stuff. You don't see any Democrats down there. And by the way, they wouldn't allow cameras in there. So I remember Ted Cruz going down there and basically forcing his way into these facilities to show the American people what was going on. Donald Trump was like, yeah, fine, go take photos and videos. This is what's going on. This is Obama's fault. This is what Obama created. This is the Democrat-created problem. And now we have Democrats in office creating the same exact problem. Well, you have some migrants are also camping out in conference rooms at Transportation Building in Boston. However, the space is only available at night. Massachusetts governor here, a Democrat, of course, capped the shelter system at 7,500 families, you guys, in the fall, despite Massachusetts' right to shelter law. Why are you capping it? You're bragging that you want all these people here, but why aren't you taking care of them? You see, they're such hypocrites. They're such hypocrites. Now 600 families are on the wait list for the shelter. Earlier this week, and 8 other Democrat governors wrote to the Biden administration and congressional leaders asking for more funds to handle the migrant crisis. And Biden ain't giving it to them. Hey, at least he's consistent. We need DC to act. We need Congress to act. Why don't you figure it out yourself, you knucklehead? You want to sit there and brag about something like being a sanctuary state, a right to shelter state, a right to shelter city, and now you can't figure it out. Now you realize that, oh my God, my words actually have consequences behind them, and the policies that I want to implement actually have, consequences, and now you're receiving the repercussions of what you wanted, and now you don't like it. Well, her office estimates migrants will cost the state basically $1 billion next year. Oh, good. Write it into the ground. Keep sending them there, Greg. Keep sending them there. She asked the state legislator for another $250 to address the crisis this year, but the funding has not been approved. They don't have the money. They can't handle a few thousand illegal aliens. And Texas is supposed to handle 6 million? I guess Republicans are just better at governing. Because if Texas can handle this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy on them. You have Chicago, DC, and other people complaining about this whole thing. And, again, it's happening in Chicago's O'Hare Airport. Oh, it's happening the same thing there. So Brandon's going to sit there and say, oh, we need a ceasefire. Why don't you worry about your own state, buddy? But they love it there. I got, I came with the receipts. The Democrats love it. Here's the poll, folks. Here's the poll for Illinois. Oh, who's winning? The Emerson. Now, this was a little bit later. It's the most recent one I have. Biden was up 10 points on Trump from Emerson College. Up 10 points in Illinois. Yeah, you're seeing that. They're still going to vote Democrat, you guys. Amidst everything, the crime, the theft, the homeless, the feces on the ground, the smash and grabs, the illegal immigration that's pouring in the country, the removing funding from schools to pay for illegal immigrants now taking over your airports, taking over your education system. They love it. They want more of it. Greg, give them more. Greg, start busting them through. I'm surprised Greg Abbott hasn't started a GoFundMe. Start busting these people. We could get Greyhounds for miles, you guys, for freaking miles, and just overload their infrastructure and just watch these cities collapse. Just have them collapse. It's one of the greatest ideas, but is it political pawns? Yes, it is. You're absolutely right, Green. They're political pawns right now because you want to treat them as political pawns because you want their vote. Fine, we'll ship them. We'll send them to your Democrat-ran area, and you can sit there and cover the cost of it. I ain't paying for it. Well, getting to a little bit of a sidebar news here. Peter Navarro was sentenced to 4 months for defying January 6th. Yeah, that was a hard transition, but we did it. A hard transition, but we made it through. Peter Navarro sentenced to 4 months for defying January 6th subpoena. I don't want to go through this. The whole purpose of me bringing this up is, why is he sentenced to 4 months in prison and having him pay a fine of $9,500, but nothing happens to Hunter Biden? So another situation where the law applies to Republicans, but does not apply to Democrats. Interesting. It's so funny how there's a double standard there. And then at the same time, Democrats are going to say there's no double standard there. Like the logic is not linear. You know what I mean? And I always bring this up, and maybe I should show more clips of this stuff with these on the street interviews where people will trap other people in their own line of thinking. And what they'll do is they'll give the person a scenario that is about Biden, but they make them think that it's actually about Trump. And so they're just ripping it. Oh, it's racist. It's terrible. It's xenophobic. It's that person should be thrown in prison. And then the person goes, oh, by the way, that actually wasn't about Trump. That was about Biden. And then their whole tune changes. Oh, well, it's something I'd have to look into. I'm not actually so sure that person be thrown in jail. It's so funny how, again, they're so along party lines. If you do something wrong, then yes, you receive the consequences for it. So that goes for Republicans too. I'm not beholden to Trump. I like the guy. I think he says idiotic things. He has done stupid things like spend up the wazoo. So I'm going to sit there if he is president. By the way, just a heads up, I'm going to call Trump out when he does things good and when he does things bad. Wouldn't you want that from somebody that you listen to that's not going to sit there and just feed you a bunch of BS? I'm only going to tell you what I think. There's going to be things you like and don't like. That's what we're supposed to do as conservatives and Republicans. Have conversations and hear differing viewpoints. I'm not going to agree with everything you guys think. That's okay. We can still be friends. You can still listen. If you choose not to, I totally respect that. But when Trump does something stupid, just a heads up, I'm going to call him out. The press briefings will still continue. I will still hound Republicans. And when the media does something stupid, which is probably most of it, going after the Trump administration for something stupid, then I'll make sure I call that out too. I think I'm going to be a little bit fair here. It's tough to sit there and give credit to Biden because he sucks so bad. That's the only reason we're hounding him so much. What has he done good? You know what I mean? The CHIPS Act? Yeah, maybe. We'll find out. I'll give him credit if it actually turns to fruition of being good. I'm not going to preemptively be like, it's the greatest thing ever. I don't know if it is or isn't yet. I haven't seen anything really happen with the CHIPS Act. So if it actually does good, I will give credit to him in the future on the show going, hey, we're actually seeing really great things. In hindsight, that was a really good move by Joe Biden. Other than that, I don't know what else really is going to happen here of me getting him credit. So Peter Navarro, he gets 4 months in prison, $9,500 fine. Hunter Biden, once again, because freaking Republicans are weak, saucy boys, nothing happens. And it's just ironic because, and I'll actually have to go back to the article. I want to see if I can find the dude's name, the judge's name here. It's right here. In announcing the sentencing, his name's like Meta or something, cited how Navarro had claimed a two-tier system of justice and described the January 6th committee as a kangaroo court. True. The guy that he's talking about, the guy that did the sentencing, is a freaking Obama holdout. The dude's a Dem. Yeah. Now it was appointed by John Roberts, who, let's be fair. John Roberts is not a conservative, folks. He's not a conservative. But right here, nomination, boom. Where'd this whole process start, folks? Right there with Barack Obama. You also have Senate Majority Leader motion to invoke cloture on the nomination. So, look, the guy is biased. I mean, he was part of the January 6th stuff, too, just a heads up, right here. He notably presided over cases related to January 6th, and he rejected efforts by Donald Trump to dismiss the lawsuits. Just saying the guy had a little bit of an agenda. He's a little bit biased. Makes sense why he's going to sit there and put Navarro behind bars and not have really any saying on much with Hunter Biden. And again, I'm not saying he's part of the Hunter Biden stuff. It's just funny, again, how Democrats just seem to always just right off in the sunset, nothing happens. Well, what's the case? Well, Obama did a lot of crazy shit when he was president. Nothing happened to him. He was never indicted, using the FBI to go after his political opponents, and conservatives using the IRS to go after conservatives and political opponents. I mean, Eric Holder, Attorney General, completely lying. Obama completely lying, even though we have the actual emails showing the communication between the two that something allegedly did happen. You have Hillary Clinton with the server, nothing happened to her. You have Joe Biden with the corruption that's happened there. Nothing's happened to him. No investigations, really. There's no indictments. Nothing's being done. But Donald Trump doesn't pay a parking ticket in New York City. Grand jury, put him behind bars. His hand shakes. 25th Amendment. He's not fit to hold office. He messes up once, conflating Hillary Clinton with Nikki Haley, which isn't too far right now of a conflation, and they lose their minds. Joe Biden every day has some sort of mental lapse. Nothing. Nobody's pleading 25th Amendment for that guy. Nothing's being done. So it's a remarkable double standard. Remarkable. And speaking of double standards, just remarkable things. Joy Reid. Oh, we're back with Joy Reid again. Look at this idiot. Like I said, she's getting paid millions of dollars to say outlandish things. She compares Trump to Hitler. Just like I think the goal here for her is, how far can I go with saying outlandish crap on MSNBC before anybody on the left goes, whoa, this is way too far? Clearly, you can go very far. And so she rants on how fascism takes root. If you want to know about fascism, you guys, I wrote a whole chapter about Antifa, and I walk you through the inception of fascism and how it formulated and how it was basically an outgrowth of socialism. It basically just takes a different form slightly, and I walk you through those different forms between socialism and fascism, and how that was an outgrowth of the Democrat Party later on, and actually established Antifa, which masquerades as anti-fascist, even though they are fascists. And so if you haven't seen the book, we got a lot of new subscribers here. And again, I'm going to plug it because, folks, I worked hard on it. We got Trojan Horse here, How the Left is Destroying America. It's a great book. It's a timely book. Look, there's real writing in there. I wrote all these pages. Would love your support on this. I think it's a great book. It's a book that I would want to read. If it wasn't, folks, there's no way in heck I would have been able to write it. So far left, MSNBC host Joy Reid likened Donald Trump to Hitler on Wednesday, which, I mean, how many times have we heard this? Okay, we're all tired of it, Joy. Okay, we get it. You're an idiot, and you're portraying yourself to be more of an idiot with things like this. Former president was also viewed as a clown, a goon who could be kept in line. Reid opened her show by discussing fascism and how it takes root. Did I not mention like 10 minutes ago that there's no mirrors? There's no mirrors with these liberals. There's no mirrors with these idiots. There's no like self-reflection, you know what I mean? By looking at their own party and the destruction that their own party's done since the inception. There's no looking back. Reid said fascism does not take root through a dramatic coup, but more often a deal, a bargain between the would-be dictator and the establishment, both political and media, who believe power would tame the dictator. Like Trump, Hitler also viewed as a clown, a goon, who could be kept in line, and then there are the accommodations that the media makes with autocracy. Reid said, noting a New York Times article on Hitler from 1922, which said Hitler's anti-Semitism was so violent or genuine as it sounded. Reid compared Hitler's failed coup that had set the stage for Nazi Germany, known as the Beer Hall, I don't know, what is that, push? At January 6th Capitol. Oh God, here we go. It's you know what? It's so outlandish that it's actually hard to comprehend while reading it, and even to make the connection between the two. I see what they're doing because I'm able to actually understand what they're doing, but to make a linear, logical connection and have it flow all the way through is where I'm really struggling with. Again, I see the manipulation. I'm very in tune with reading between the lines, and the messaging they're trying to do is correlate Trump to Hitler. Look what he's going to do. He's going to lock up all the immigrants. He's going to lock up all the illegal aliens. He hates Mexicans. He hates the Chinese. He hates black people. Look what he's going to do. It's bullshit. It's a bunch of BS. So this is the stuff they're going to peddle. And the only reason I want to bring it up to you is because it's going to get worse the closer we get to November. It's going to get worse. And I called it. Did I not call it? I mean, at the end of this December, we actually did a show saying it's ramping up. And I thought that it would happen in January of this year. I thought it happened during this month. I mean, obviously it is, right? We weren't far off. But the ramp up started in December, and it's continuing to escalate here and just more and more. So it's going to start with MSNBC. You're going to see CNN slowly mix in here more and more outlandish things. So CNN's trying to rebrand themselves. They're not rebranding themselves. They're holding off right now. Once they see MSNBC start taking foot here, now you're going to see everybody else kind of trickle in. Mark my words. Mark my words. We weren't wrong. Very rarely are we wrong here, and it's kind of nice because I don't want to be wrong. But you got Joy Reid here. If you guys want to read this article, it's Fox News, I believe. MSNBC host Joy Reid compares Trump to Hitler. It's not even worth reading and going through because she's an idiot, and I don't want to waste your guys' time with it. Speaking of that, California bill would mandate all new cars have a device to automatically limit speed to 10 miles per hour over limit. I don't want this. I don't like this. I know this is in California and all of you are in different states, but remember, Democrats want to sit there and look at California as kind of guinea pigs, and they will implement it in your state or your area if you have a Democrat somehow weaseling their way in. So California Democratic lawmaker has introduced a bill he calls groundbreaking that would require all new cars sold in the state of California to be equipped with a device, preventing them from traveling more than 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. Now, here's the issue that I have is there's not enough information to have a cause and effect to determine that the amount of accidents would actually impact a change if you were to have a basically a governor on the car. Okay, that would basically affect your speed, and this is where I'm getting it from. So it's more of like a statistics type thing. These changes are a head-on attempt to tackle vehicle fatalities, which are surging across the United States and especially in California, amid a rise in reckless driving since the onset of the pandemic. A recent report from TRIP, a national transportation research group, found that traffic fatalities in California have increased by 22% from 2019 to 2022, compared to 19% for the U.S. overall in 2022. 4,400 Californians died in car crashes. Now, if you look at this, California has an increase of 22%, right? 22%, compared to the U.S. that has 19%. That's pretty proportion then. Like, if you were to use California as a sample of 22%, your sample is pretty reflective of the population then. 3% is not far off. So you're not really seeing anything so drastic to where you need to sit there and limit somebody's speed and basically pass a law. You should allow people to do what they want to do. I don't think you should speed. I don't think you should be driving 100 miles an hour. But we have like 36 million people in the state, and 4,400 Californians died in car crashes. But you guys, that's car crashes, right? That's all car crashes, I believe. They're not specifying really, but that could be people that fell asleep at the wheel, had nothing to do with speeding. That could be people that, crashed into somebody else and were never speeding either. These are people that could have lost control of their vehicle that were never speeding. Maybe it was slick roads, maybe it was raining, that, plowed into, a guardrail or plowed into, a lamppost or something. These could also quantify even people having heart attacks in cars, passing away in the car that resulted in a car crash. So the same thing how people would die of a heart attack during COVID, but since they had COVID, they just classified it as a COVID death. And the same thing here, when somebody died, it's quantified as a car crash, even though they died as a result of something else. The bill package also requires side underride guards on trucks to reduce the risk of cars and bikes being pulled underneath the trucks during a crash, and physical improvements like new crosswalks and curb extensions on state-owned surface streets to better accommodate pedestrians, cyclists, the disability community, and transit users. So I think this is just another way to sit there and encroach on people's personal lives and have the state determine what they can and can't do. And we're going to see this as time goes on. This goes from First Amendment rights to Second Amendment rights, them chiseling away at basically anything and everything that you can do. The longer we are as a country, you're slowly seeing more and more laws limiting your liberties and your freedoms. And maybe somebody disagrees. Maybe people are like, hey, you know what? I think we should have something like this. My thing is that why do we have so many freaking laws in this country? Why are we constantly this is what we're going to spend our time on? With California, with everything going on, this is what they're going to spend their time on, is putting governors in cars to limit your speed. Like, there's nothing more serious going on. The fact that we're $68 billion in a deficit, that our education system sucks, that our roads are some of the worst in the country and we have the best weather in the country. Our streets are disgusting. Like, there's nothing better we could spend our time on, and we're going to spend our time on this crap. In the same way, you saw Chicago Governor Brandon Johnson talk about what's going on in Israel. Why don't you worry about the crap that you have to worry about? You know what I mean? This is how Democrats run the show. They're worried about everything else other than their own area. Nancy Pelosi is a prime example. So, just wanted to bring that up to y'all. That's what we have. There's more news, but we're going to end it there, folks. It's Friday. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I do want to bring something up here actually for you, and this more comes in line with Blue Guy, his email. And for those that I'm doing it at the end of the show, because those that honestly like the show tend to watch all the way through. And don't feel like you have to do this. This is not something that you guys have to do, okay? Blues guy, right, with the NHL logo, tossed me an email, and it's something I haven't talked a lot about. But the email was like, basically asking, hey, is there a way that I can contribute money with basically without becoming a member, in a nutshell? So you see this right here. It says thanks. I'm kind of highlighting it right next to the word download. If you don't want to become a member, but you just want to like contribute because you maybe really enjoyed that video, you can actually click thanks here, and then you could swipe it, and then you could do different amounts. So if you wanted to do $2 or something, that's available to you. Don't feel like you have to. I'm not pushing you to do this, okay? If everybody did not want to become a member, that's okay. You guys just watching and enjoying it, that's fine with me. You don't have to give me your money, please. Like you have bills to pay. But again, Blues asked about it, and I just wanted to be able to show him as well that you could do this here. If you want to do 500, I'll take the 500. But all jokes aside, it is there for if you want, and you can do that per video if you feel like you're getting something out of this and you feel like contributing. Again, you guys, I'm being serious. Please don't give me your money. If you have bills to pay and other things that are necessary, then obviously pay those. You guys are here hanging out as a community. The freeloader stuff's a joke. Don't take it serious. I just thought it was funny because we have a community again where we could joke around with one another. But again, you guys don't need to give me your money. I'm just being clear about that. You're amazing people as it is. If you feel like you want to, then please, yeah, of course. Anything helps with advertising, helps with equipment. We're saving up currently for a new camera. I was able to save up some of the money we got from memberships, and some of the thanks and some of the ad revenue, and then some of my own money, obviously, majority of my own money to purchase a new computer, which has been really helpful and a time saver for me. And so the next step is a new camera because, I mean, I know you guys can't see, but it's giving me technical difficulties, needless to say. But anyways, enough of me rambling. I hope you guys have a lovely weekend. We will also be on Spooky Adventures, our secondary channel. Please check that out. We do reactions to the paranormal, the unexplained, and the supernatural. Would love for you guys to hang out. We have a lot of fun. It scares the crap out of me, but different vibe. I think you guys will see more of my personality, my goofiness, than what you maybe see here. So, anywho, have a lovely weekend. God bless you, Patriots, and I'll see you tomorrow here on the Bull Brad Show.